Hey guys, Mr. Sonnenberg here. This is for Biology 20 students studying Unit 1, Energy Flow Through the Biosphere. Today we're going to be talking about how energy enters the biosphere. But first we need to talk about what the heck is this biosphere thing he's talking about. Well, the biosphere, okay, it has three components. Number one, it's going to have the atmosphere. Okay, the atmosphere is going to be all the gases surrounding the Earth, kind of within a 10-kilometer radius. That's going to be your CO2, but that is your gases. Okay. Number two, we're going to have the lithosphere. Now that's going to be primarily your land. Okay, so that's mainly rock, but it's kind of your land and your rock. Then the last one is, you can probably guess what it is. It's the hydrosphere. Oops. That's going to be an S, and then I'm going to spell the rest. And that's your water on Earth, so all the water on Earth. So now the biosphere is basically anything that can sustain life or inhabits life. Okay, so that's what this is. Sustain, or inhabit. Wow. Now, if you want to go back to the grade 1 classroom at this point, and you want to compare my rating to theirs, feel free. And then if you want to make fun of me about it, I'll definitely accept that criticism. I will get better though. This is the first one in a long time. You have to give me a break. Okay. Anyways, I apologize. Sustain looks hilarious right now, actually. It looks like Suffland. Well, same. All right. Anyways. Moving on. So, how does this enter the biosphere? Well, first thing we need to know is that one of the requirements of all living things is energy. Now, I require energy. This cat purring on my island right now requires energy to live. So, how do we obtain that energy, and how is it converted? How do we utilize it? Where does it come from? And how does it enter the biosphere? Well, the energy is actually going to help us to move, grow, think, repair, reproduce, all those things. So, it's really important for us to thrive. We need to be able to utilize this energy. So the biosphere, or in the biosphere though, it is what we're seeing on Earth is a million different processes occurring. Well, not a million different processes, but we have tons of species, but huge variation on Earth. We have various biomes and climate conditions and such around the Earth. So we have a wide variety of species and huge biodiversity on Earth. And we have a lot of producers that can help us to gain this energy. But anyway, so cellular respiration though, that's how we gain and obtain our energy. And we do it through the breakdown of chemical compounds. But if you take a look here, you'll actually see the formula. Oh no, I can't draw. Anyways, wow. So it's going to be basically glucose plus oxygen gas, and it's going to react to produce carbon dioxide gas, water, and energy. Now, we're going to see the correlation between cellular respirations process and photosynthesis, and we're going to look at the reactants of one versus the reactants of the other, and we're going to see and then the products of one and the products of the other, and we're going to see that there's a direct correlation between the two, and they're both extremely important in sustaining life on Earth. Now, the chemical compounds that are produced by organisms, they're known as producers. Okay, so what is actually built, that's going to be our producers, and that's what's going to obtain and store the energy that is passed on to the Earth. Hey. Now, the other process that I talk about is photosynthesis. Okay, so it's carried out by the producers. So when I talk in class, typically I say, what's another name for producers? Or for plants, I could say producers. And then I say, what's another phrase that would identify plants? And you say, photosynthesizers. I say, awesome. And then what's another one? Autotrophs. Okay, cool. All right. So, but plants, algae, and some bacteria, they're going to carry out photosynthesis. Now, just as important as cellular respiration, they feed off of one another. Okay? So its equation, and I'm going to try my best right here to draw a straight line of some sort. Nailed it. Alright, so it's carbon dioxide gas, water, and energy is required and reacts to produce glucose and oxygen gas. Now, does this look familiar to you though? Because carbon dioxide gas, water, and energy, those were the products of cellular respiration, and now they're the reactants. And then glucose, your carbohydrates, protein, and sugar, the glucose molecule there, and the oxygen are now the products of photosynthesis, but they were the reactants of cellular respiration. Now, so if we flip-flop that equation, we realize that there's a cycle and both are very dependent upon one another. These processes wouldn't occur. So photosynthesis is where we obtain our energy from the sun in the biosphere, okay? And chemosynthesis, or not chemosynthesis, what am I talking about? Cellular respiration is where we actually take that and we convert it into a usable form of energy so we can reproduce, we can grow, we can move. So you see these processes are very dependent upon one another. And then photosynthesis and solar energy. Well, we obtain a lot of energy from the sun, but really we don't, a majority of it is actually reflected. So 30% is reflected into the clouds and atmosphere. 19 is actually absorbed by the clouds. And then of the remaining, really only 1 to 2% is used to drive the process of photosynthesis. So really, of all the energy that is projected towards the earth from the sun, we use very little, and majority of it is wasted, but we use enough really that we can sustain life on earth. Now, the last thing I want to talk about in this screencast is this process called chemosynthesis, because you're probably thinking about, well, how do down in the deep sea vents of the ocean, how does life sustain down there? Why is there any life down there? There's no sunlight can reach there, so how can those producers obtain the energy from the sun? Well, what happens there is actually near these deep sea vents in the ocean, there's specialized bacteria, and what they do is they split hydrogen sulfide molecules that come out of those vents. Okay, so they use that energy to break down chemical bonds, and then they use that to store energy. So basically, these deep sea vents, there's hydrogen sulfide in them, the molecules. Well, the ones that come out, the bacteria down in the base or the deep sea actually is going to break those and split them, okay? And then they're going to use those to break chemical bonds to create energy storage. So kind of a complicated process in a sense, but that's another way that we can obtain energy. Okay, so chemosynthetic organisms, so there's other types of bacteria that can carry out chemosynthesis. Okay, so we'll see those not just necessarily by deep sea vents in the ocean, okay, but a lot of them are going to be living in the cold ocean, but you can also find in hot springs where it's not really conducive to, you wouldn't expect it to be conducive to living, or a common area that is suitable for species, but you will find some in hot springs, salty lakes, deep caves, and then even in the soil we'll find. So where sunlight doesn't hit and there's still life, you can expect that chemosynthesis is going to be there, and those are chemosynthetic organisms. So anyways, that concludes the screencast. Hopefully that helps. Main things I want you to remember is, what is the biosphere? Okay, and then 2, I want you to remember, what is cellular respiration? 3, what is photosynthesis? 4, how are they similar, and how are they similar and how do they work together, those two processes? And then 4, or was that 4 or 5? I can't remember. The next one is going to be, what is chemosynthesis? Okay, so if you don't know the question of those or the answer to those questions, I want you to go back and rewatch and then write those things down. Okay, anyways, thanks for tuning in, guys. See you on the next one. Bye.